Hello everybody and welcome to today's watch party for a particular favourite of mine, now that Daddy Andrew's gone, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. Oh, so excited. I am your host, Dominic Wallace, and I'm joined today by my lovely co-host, Rocco T. Thompson. Hello, Rocco.
Hello, Dominic, and hello, everybody.
And for the people on YouTube today, the sync point will be just as the blue static starts to fizzle in, and we see the words Francis Boygaze presents. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. I am sorry, Francis. But while everyone gets set up, I will do a little bit of roll call. So I'm going to scroll up a bit on the Discord chat, and I can see we have today with us, at the very least, James Hellier. Sharon? Is that... I can't remember your name. The Discord names have all changed recently, so forgive me. I'm going to have a lot of letters instead of names. But I see Sharon, I see Lizardman, Chaos Sphere, Calbot, Mad Matt, and that's me there. Phonic, hello, welcome everybody. Brooke Nisley, you're new, I believe. I haven't seen your name here. Hello and welcome. And Fraglord there as well. Over on the YouTube chat, I can see we have Ms. Swift, James Hellier there as well. Hello, evening extra lovers. Yes, all of us are extra lovers on this chat when Andrew's away.
I'm an extra
and Jesse
admirer,
Flores.
not quite a lover.
That's more than most, so I'll allow it. But, yeah... When was the first time you saw... Oh, actually, let's just get into the film, shall we? It's a long one. So, everyone, on the count of... Well, counting down. Rocco, would you like to count us down to press start?
Sure. Which number do we count down from? 10 or...
Whichever number you like.
Let's split the difference. Let's do 5. So,
okay.
Everyone's ready. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Press play, everybody. And yeah, Chaosphere has said it best. Extro is a poor man's David Lynch film. Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree that Extro is like a British, very low budget David Lynch movie.
Okay, that's gonna get into one of my big cinephile pet peeves. Is everyone describes things as Lynchian, along with Cronenbergian, Fellini. Those are words that I have tried to remove from my vocabulary because Lynch is such a singular director, in my opinion. Like, anything described as Lynchian doesn't really even begin to scratch the surface of what his films are like or about.
Exactly.
Not to say that Extro is not stupendous in its own way.
No need to tread on eggshells here. I'm one of like 7 worldwide Extro fans, and I believe even the director doesn't really care for it.
Oh my god, yeah. If anyone saw that interview in ISOD 3, he is pretty mystified by how long the love for that film. But yeah, it's a good one. It's an interesting film. But we are here to talk about
the Lynchian masterpiece of Fire Walk With Me. So when did you first see this film, Rocco?
So
Keith Sutherland was in it.
I haven't seen this film in a long time. I think the first time I actually watched Twin Peaks was back in college. I didn't see it when it was airing live. Dom and I are pretty close in age. I was born in 1990, so by the time it was on TV, I was definitely too little to watch it. I eventually got around to it in college simply because I wanted to watch it earlier, but I think it was kind of tough to find, so it wasn't really till it was on streaming that I got to. And I watched Fire Walk With Me, obviously, immediately after finishing the series, which I kind of think is a mistake.
Arguably, yeah.
Because it didn't really do much for me. But that was probably the last time I saw it, was about 10 or 12 years ago. And it has been interesting because ever since then, I think the critical and fan opinion has changed on it. So that's been a really interesting thing to return to, because my first time watching it in 10 years was last night. So what about you, Dom?
I can't recall the first time I saw. Oh no, I can recall the first time I saw this film. I saw this film the week before The Return came out.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been aware of this film for the longest time because I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan, enormous. My parents watched it while I was in the crib. I grew up being very aware of it because of, social situations. I mean, like, it was in The Simpsons, for the love of God. It was everywhere. And when I eventually watched Twin Peaks, the entirety of it from start to finish, I needed answers, and I was very aware that this film was not where you get answers, so I avoided it. I avoided it like the plague, and I don't know why. When I watched it eventually, it became my favorite David Lynch film.
Really? Favorite?
I had seen many of Lynch's works
Yeah.
because of Twin Peaks. I think Twin Peaks was the first bit of Lynchian lore I engaged with. And I usually find it very cringy that a creator puts themselves in their work. But I mean, who else could play Gordon? He's amazing.
Also, this busload of kids. I guess a bunch of people dislike this movie because it lacks the humor of the show. But this
Yeah.
first 35 minutes has some hilarious stuff in it, and that busload of kids screaming just pure gold to me. What the fuck is going on?
I, I, there has been many, many people pulling apart this opening scene, frame by bloody frame. Especially, I mean, Lynch even gives us a small insight into his line of thinking with these two characters here, and Kiefer Sutherland's character is the new kid on the block, right? He's this very intellectual FBI agent, and yet he has no idea what madness he's in for with this.
So, Dom, what makes this your favorite Lynch movie?
It's arguably one of the most coherent Lynch films, and I think, of course, being connected to Twin Peaks means a lot to me. Being able to revisit that world, even though you visit it, the world of the television show Twin Peaks, you visit it like a little tiny bit. Most of it's the story surrounding the exterior part of Twin Peaks, like the Black Lodge, all that kind of stuff. The more ethereal, nonsensy stuff, rather than the characters we grew to love on the TV show. But that connection, just it's very strong for me. The put this beside with like Mulholland Drive, and that's a very small narrative as well, and that's very coherent. It's one of the more popular movies of Lynch. But my wife and I recently went to the cinema here in Vegas to see Lost Highway,
Amazing.
and seeing, because it's been years since I saw Lost Highway as well, and seeing Lynch go kind of off the walls crazy and not really care about narrative structure,
Mhm.
it is amazing. But if it's your first experience with Lynch and you say are watching blockbusters here and there like Top Gun Maverick and then go and see Lost Highway, you'd be a little lost, to say the least.
That's what I think is so interesting about this movie, having watched it again, is that it's so transitional for him. You know,
Yeah.
if he didn't make Fire Walk with Me, then there's no Lost Highway, there's no Mulholland Drive, and there's no Inland Empire, which,
Yeah.
when I think about them, are essentially all the same movie, right? Like, they all have
Pretty
different
much.
themes, but they're all, much like this one, about the spiritual journey of one central character and the sort of nightmarish scenario they go through. Um,
Hmm.
but the problem with this movie is that it is trying to break out of that traditional narrative structure, trying to do two things and sort of feeding a TV audience what they wanted, but do his own thing. So, yeah, it's just a really interesting transitional piece in that way. And that's why I think it's not entirely successful. I'm not a big fan of this whole first 35 minutes. Like I said, there's entertaining stuff in there, But the real meat and potatoes of the thing is, I think, what people did not like when it initially came out, and it's just that you're spending so much time with Laura, um, and seeing her traumatic life.
I, for anyone who's a fan of Twin Peaks, I firmly believe this is necessity viewing. You have to see this one as well, because watching Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks, the brief glances you get of her life, it's it's enough for the show. This adds so much more, and it showcases what an amazing actress she is. The
Hmm.
girl can scream, and she still can. If you watch The Return, she still has those pipes.
She is great, but by the same token, I think it sort of fails. It's great for Twin Peaks fans, of course, because it's for Twin
Yeah,
Peaks. But it also fails because if your mind is primed by Twin Peaks, like I did, and you go and try and watch this, it's not what you're. He does not give you satisfaction in the way that you want, and he doesn't do that in The Return either, and that's why The Return
no,
ends up being so brilliant and greater than what it is. But yeah, it's a strange piece of filmmaking because it's utterly mystifying to somebody who has never seen Twin Peaks, but it's
exactly.
also
Yeah,
probably not satisfying to somebody who really loves Twin Peaks. It's kind of he's trying to do his own thing with something that he created. Um, yeah, and it takes a lot of risks that you wouldn't anticipate.
yeah. Uh, the beauty about this first 30-ish minutes, I mean, you said you're not a big fan. I love the contrast between this and Twin Peaks. Like the cops are all horrible, nasty buggers, and in Twin Peaks, of course, everyone loves the cops. They're great. It's just showing this right next to Twin Peaks. It feels like it's Lynch trying to say how special Twin Peaks was, and how the people ruined it for him. He was trying to make his lovely little show. But he notoriously absolutely hates television as well.
Lizard Man asked if fans ever found out who the killer was. They did.
Yeah.
It was kind of forced midway through season two, um, and Lynch and Mark Frost didn't really want it to come out in the way it did, but they kind of were forced to make a decision by producers. Um,
Hmm.
I think that arc is still really great in season two, but it's ultimately what led to the cancellation of the show because once people found out, they lost interest. This movie will also reveal it to you, so yeah, you'll know soon enough.
Indeed, you will.
James Hellier said The Straight Story is the best Lynch movie. That is actually the last Lynch movie I got to, which I think is probably common for people because it's his most traditional, least strange movie. But it is fantastic. It's a really good one. If no one's seen it,
Mm.
it's about a man who chooses to ride take his ride-on mower across country, based on a true story.
And got Miss Swift over on YouTube saying the movie did a bad thing by trying to play a wicked game of balancing a movie, TV, and doing your own thing. It definitely does try to juggle a lot of balls in the air at the same time.
But that's also why it's so important because you can see those
Yeah,
two things sort of pulling against each other. Um,
yeah,
but I think that's also why people have come back around to it because, we're talking about it as a horror movie also. You all know we're gearing up for In Search of Darkness 90 to 94, and we're very interested in examining this as a horror film. I think I was scrolling through my mother-in-law's, maybe it was Apple TV or something, and under the horror section, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is there.
there
If
you
you ask
go.
me, all Lynch movies are kind of horror films.
Oh, for sure.
But this one especially, it's being reappraised in a new landscape because we're more comfortable with horror as trauma, as a reflection of trauma now. This is definitely a trauma story. And
Hmm.
yeah, so I think it is definitely one of his masterpieces, but it's a very flawed masterpiece, of course.
There's always something to heavily dislike about David Lynch movies because they're very polarizing, aren't they?
Yeah.
And that's the thing with very experimental works. There is no way you're going to please everyone, not at all. On the flip side, though, there's always going to be those people who are overly fanatical, like, well, me, who's going to love pretty much everything he dishes out, even if it's total garbage and he's filming a very silly music video for himself on a handheld portable camera and trying to sell it as something massive.
I had to
I'm
check
seeing a tea
yesterday.
kettle in the background, and it's triggering me a bit because of what happens in The Return.
I had to check yesterday if this corpse was Lori Petty. You
I
know,
was just thinking that, yeah. I
no,
was just
you
asking
were.
myself that question.
I was like, this would be a strange role for Lori Petty, Paint Girl. But it's not. It's not. What's the actress's name? Let's see. Pamela Gidley, who I do not recognize from anything else.
I also love, again, something he played with in The Return. Everyone adores, like unanimous, it's one of the laws of physics, right? We all love Special Agent Dale Cooper. And we want more of him on screen. And the Return did that incredibly well. It's one of the greatest returns of a character I've ever experienced live. And I believe the intention of having these two FBI agents at the beginning was to, again, tease that notion, because this is what Dale Cooper does at the beginning of Twin Peaks, almost exactly beat by beat. He goes to the police station, he goes and visits the recently found body and examines it, very similar to this. So it's trying to give us a tease of Coop.
It's also, it's necessary world building because he's trying to show us that there's life outside of Twin Peaks. I actually read that Kyle MacLachlan really did not want to do this at all.
He was getting typecast at the time, wasn't he?
Yeah, yes, but also I think a lot of the cast felt like because David Lynch and Mark Frost sort of left the show, and that's typical. If the way television works is different than movies. After season 1, they had a more hands-off approach. I know Kyle MacLachlan specifically felt kind of abandoned and sort of adrift in what was going on with the show, and was sort of felt shitty about the end of Twin Peaks. So when he was asked to come back for this, I think it was initially a no, but they did get him for 5 days, so he was in there. And I think that's also consistent with Sherilyn Fenn did not want to come back either. But a lot of the cast eventually did. They shot scenes as well, but they don't show up in this. If you get the Criterion disc or a couple of the other discs, there's the missing pieces, and it's an hour and a half extra of footage of other characters, extended scenes that they just could not fit in here.
If you need more of your Twin Peaks fix.
Yeah. I love this woman.
I know, it's my spirit animal.
A little bit ago, you said you like anything David Lynch puts out. Do you have a least favorite David Lynch?
I'd have to really think about that. I'll come back to it. I'll be thinking about it all watch party to scratch my brain and think, what's my least favorite Lynch material? It might be his YouTube channel, even though it's hilarious.
I think mine, and this is funny, I don't think any of his movies are bad. Even the second half of Dune, I think Dune is half of a great movie, and then second half is kind of a mess. But the one that bugs me as I've gotten older is Wild at Heart.
Oh!
I used to love it. I really used to love it. But I think there's something so unrefined about that movie. It feels like, a lot of people will say Lynch, people who don't understand Lynch or don't like Lynch will say it's weirdness for weirdness' sake. Wild at Heart is the movie where that feels accurate to me. It's That's like a bunch of strange imagery in search of a message.
Yeah.
I still love it. I really do. But if I had to pick one that I thought was kind of not in line with the rest, it's probably that one.
Very fair.
Yeah. And also, coming after Blue Velvet, I mean, I think it was impossible. Whatever was next was going to be rougher.
That was the first Lynch film that I showed my wife Carla. We went to go see it in a theatre in Birmingham where I used to live. And when she left it, and she was like, I loved it. I was like, I married the right woman.
Well, I do think it's a good entry point.
Yeah.
Blue Velvet or Wild at Heart are both good entry points. That's not to take anything away from Wild at Heart. I'm just saying, I think his real masterpieces are the ones that he has made in the latter half of his career.
So you're not a big Eraserhead fan then?
Okay, Eraserhead. Eraserhead is a masterpiece, but it's so student film to me.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
get it? And then also, for me, you know, for those who don't know, I'm gay. Gay men love, strong women, glamorous women. I like that most of his latter work, especially, centers on a female character.
Yeah.
Eraserhead sort of has this macho perspective to me. Not macho, that's not the right word, because he's sort of an ineffective character. But
Yeah.
it's very much about male anxieties in a way that I do not find as relatable.
That's very fair. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just coming from my perspective. What are your thoughts on Eraserhead?
Very similar to yours, actually. I do enjoy Eraserhead, but it's the film student in me that loves it.
Yeah,
So the film student that's like, extra is a hidden masterpiece and you just don't get it. That's the guy that really likes Eraserhead.
sure.
The baby is a metaphor. Don't you understand?
And then I think Elephant Man is probably one of my top three. That's an amazing film for a whole host of different reasons than these ones.
Would you stay at, what do they call it? Fat Trout Trailer Park, was it?
I mean,
Was it anywhere called
if
Fat
Harry
Trout
Dean
something?
Stanton was the supervisor, probably.
Yeah, that's very true.
I'm not usually up before 9 a.m., so it's not a problem for me.
Harry Dean Stanton, what a legend. I miss him each and every day. But good God, I can't think of a single thing he's been in that I've not thought has been elevated due to his presence.
Also, he just said it's more popular than Uncle's Day in a whorehouse. The question is it like a bring your uncle to the whorehouse? Is it Uncle
Wait.
get it free? What
More
is
popular than Uncle's Day at all. I'm
it?
going
You
to
have
start
a
dropping
your
that
own
randomly.
uncle, each other's uncles. I have some questions.
Chaosphere is saying this is where Harry ended up after the end of Repo Man.
It tracks.
We're going to have a shared universe now where all of Harry Dean Stanton's roles are connected in some way or another.
What was his?
I can't remember. Is this character the same one that he plays in The Return?
I am not sure.
He plays a very similar character at the least.
This is the hard thing about being a Twin Peaks fan. Also, is that like even
Cobbling
watching
the
this
lore.
last night, it's hard to even keep up with who's who, names that float up. But I think that's why it's lasted so long. It's sort of like the Game of Thrones thing. Not that Game of Thrones is on the same level as Twin Peaks, in my opinion, but it's like you want to learn every corner of it. And,
Yeah, there's questions.
yeah.
And trying to find answers to those questions is what kept the show alive. And when the answers were just fed to the audience, it died.
Yeah, exactly. What are your thoughts on that second season, aside from the main thrust of it?
It's a bit too long, but I did enjoy the second season. I really did enjoy the second season, especially the latter half. I thought that Wyndham Earle was a good foil to Coop, and it added some mystery and tension to the show. My favourite parts are the Red Room kind of stuff, the more nightmarish horror side of things. So the return, for me, was chef's kiss beautiful.
I think my favorite part of the second season is Nadine being a cheerleader.
I was about to say that's the bit I hate. I hate Nadine being a super strong cheerleader.
Well, it is stupid. It is stupid. Oh, and also stupid. I gotta say my favorite character in the original series is Piper Laurie as Catherine Martell.
Oh,
And
she's
when-
amazing.
When she is a Japanese man in that second season. Spoilers, sorry, but it is the craziest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Oh,
The things they make her do.
it's so bad.
Yeah, she was kind of my one missing thing from The Return that really killed me.
Yeah.
I don't know how she would fit in there. I think it was kind of perfect as is, but I don't know. She is underrated, I think.
Oh,
Um,
definitely. There's so many actors and actresses in this that are just phenomenal.
oh yeah.
And they added to the cast very well for this film here and replaced some people.
Which once we get to that, I would love to talk about it. But I'm a big fan of fake Donna.
Yeah. Yeah, James Hellier over on YouTube is saying the wheels spin on for too long after the reveal, similar to what we said when the season 2, when we knew who the killer was. It was kind of okay. Now what's the mystery? And
Well, that first season is just 8 episodes, I think, right?
it is. It's very short.
Yeah, it's the dictates of network television. Me and my partner are watching Buffy for his first time, and as much as I love that show, it's like 21 fucking episodes a season. It's like,
Oh yeah,
sweet God.
and when you get an episode that really drags.
Yeah.
When you get to the episode about how beer is evil, you'll have to let me know, because that one is it's a so bad it's good masterpiece.
Okay, but it's pretty. It's at least a notable episode. Some of them are so
Yeah,
drab and
forgettable. Yeah. That's the problem when you have so many episodes. And I think the beauty of season 1 of Twin Peaks, I may be making this up in my headcanon of David Lynch, but I believe he shot the first season as a movie, essentially. I know he did that with The Return, for sure. And it was surreal. Like, back then, in the early 90s, television that had a coherent plot that went on beyond episode 1, that was new, right? Like, that wasn't the norm. Miss Swift, beer, foamy, tree, pretty, she knows.
And Phonics said Beer Bad was great. Come on. Um,
Beer
I
bad.
wanted to go back. Sharon said the fun thing about Twin Peaks show was the discussion I'd have with friends and coworkers after we watched an episode. And that reminds me, David Lynch, I read an interview last night. He said that another big problem with the second season is that they moved the show from Thursday to, I believe, Saturday.
When everyone's out.
Right, and Thursday was great because people would talk about it on Friday. It was the around the water cooler,
Yeah.
real water cooler
Yeah.
talk. But they said with it being on Saturday, by the time it got to Monday, it was too far away and it was off of people's minds.
That's
So I
the
just thought that
problem.
was sort of interesting. Lizard Man said, "Just a lot of weird people in this town, isn't there?"
Welcome to America.
Welcome to David Lynch's America.
I do kind of want to live there. I wouldn't last too long. I'd be one of those kids that gets hit by a truck in front of Harry Dean Stanton or something.
Honestly, these days though, I'd trade it out. Lynch's America.
I would love to live in Twin Peaks. That would be a phenomenal. I need my cousins over here, my wife's cousins, who I've now married into. They're moving to, I believe, Seattle, and not too far from Seattle is a lot of Twin Peaks walks.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I need
Pacific Northwest.
to visit.
Have you ever been to the Pacific Northwest?
Not once. I've flown over, and that's about it. I've never really been to California. North of California is the closest I've been.
Yeah,
Like Olympic National Park.
Me and my partner.
Instead,
Oh, go ahead.
James
What did
Elliott saying, instead, Dom lives in Randall Flag country because I'm here in Nevada.
That's true. Woof.
Yeah.
But yeah, my
That
partner
wind.
and I are thinking we may end up in Portland, so I'm excited. But I'm excited to try it out and see the area because Twin Peaks or not, I think it's a cool part of the country.
Yeah. We've all had dreams like this, right? Where everything seems to make sense while it's happening, and the moment we look back, we're like, wait, what? It's so surreal. I can't help but smile at it as well because, again, like you said, a lot of people say Lynch is weird for weirdness' sake.
Yeah.
But this is dreamscape. This is how dreams are. They're lawless in terms of narrative. You don't make sense of a dream. You can interpret things, but the very next moment of a dream could be an interpretation of something very segregated and separate to the
Yeah,
previous thing.
and that's really
And
what's so
here's
special.
Daddy Bowie
Oh yeah, David Bowie, one of his great cameos.
with the strangest accent choice I've ever heard.
This is not my favorite Bowie cameo. I would have to say my very favorite is
That walk.
when he's Pontius Pilate in Last Temptation of Christ from So Savior.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. I mean, what an outfit too. That just looks like he could
Oh,
come off stage or filming a music video in that.
this line going into oh my god, the static as well. I desperately want to just stop the film and analyze the hell out of it. But going into the return after watching this and hearing the name Judy a few times, I
Yeah,
was there with my cork board, my red strings everywhere, pointing like a maniacal maniac. What is it? Garabon Gozia or something?
Garmin
Is it?
Bozia. Garmin
it
Bozia.
yeah, that's like corn and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they
Well,
clarified that it is. I don't want to spoil it actually. They clarify what it is later. But yeah, some of this stuff is also not quite great for me because we talked about how it doesn't quite give answers, but
yeah,
it does try
just
to
questions.
expand. But it does try to expand the mythology of the Black Lodge a bit here, and this stuff is really goofy to me. Um, Personally, how does it hit you?
It hits me in the conspiracy theory nut job part of my brain that I love. This is what I love the most. Hello, everyone. This is Dominic Wallace, the crazy person that loves extra in this.
I mean, I'm
I
not mad at it. I just don't think it's, like I said, I just don't think it's as successful um, as the rest of the movie.
the surreal, nonsensical nature of it all. It's the questions. I need answers, and I know I'll never get them, but I need them.
Ms. Swift said, "Whoa, Jurgen Prochnow with a bad beard." Yes, Sutter Kane himself. Yes, Phonic, it is Jurgen Prochnow.
Can we have a
Lizard
single
Man.
answer? You could read the books; they have answers, James. Yeah,
Lizard,
I could. I should.
Lizard Man said, "I have dreams where I'm back at school and worried about our test or some shit, and then I remember, wait a minute, I graduated years ago and I never even took this course. Then I wake up." That is dreams I have. I have school dreams, miserable school dreams constantly, and I'm like, thank God I'm 32 and not even a grad student or anything. I never want to do that again.
I told myself I can't wait to stop being a student. I think I'm going to be a student forever, going for my masters in English.
Are you doing that?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. When did you? When? Sorry, this is off topic. When did you start doing that, Dom?
Oh god. Well, since I left college, I've basically been studying more. I just never really stopped.
Oh my God.
I'll stop one day. My dreams, unfortunately, I mean, you saw an example of them here. They are peculiar and they are nonsensical. To make sense of it, you'd need to be a madman. Can we get Christopher Walken in a David Lynch film? Oh, I'd love it. With something he can
Maybe a
do with
little
Nick
too
Cage.
weird. Maybe a little too weird. Let's rock.
Let's rock. Written in lipstick by the looks of it as well. Ah, Diane. The reveal of who Diane is as well in The Return could not be better casting.
So good. Perfect.
Sharon says, I get the feeling that Lynch made his movies/TV shows and whatnot, allowing his inner thoughts to come pouring out. Everything makes sense to Lynch as he creates, but he didn't seem to give the audience his playbook. I feel that we are left on our own to figure it out. Yeah, very much so. Lynch, when he talks about writing in general, he says it is like
Sorry, Dom.
fishing.
Wait. Look, the movie's starting. Here's
The
where the
movie
movie
has
really
begun.
starts, y'all. All that was preamble. Go ahead,
Yep.
Tom. Sorry.
All that was preamble and needlessly unimportant to this story, to this narrative.
Brilliant.
But yeah, Lynch's writing style is like fishing for dreams, and he says a good idea always swims to the surface again and again. So if it's something you keep thinking about in your writing process, you need to grab hold of it and put it down on paper somehow. And here
Yeah.
is Fake Donna.
Yes. Okay. Let's talk about Fake Donna. I love her. I like Laura Flynn Boyle in the series. Obviously, what is this actress's name? One second. Do you know, Dom?
I do not know.
Let's see. It is Moira Kelly. I believe she's on One Tree Hill. If any of you like that. But I just think there's a lot of life behind her eyes, much more than Laura Flynn Boyle.
For sure.
Sorry. And I just think, she's very small and fragile in this and really warm also. And I think it's really, the recasting is the best thing that could have happened for this central.
I agree.
On this.
I do like Fake Donna as well.
Yeah.
I do prefer the bathrooms from the series, though. They're more colourful.
But Dom, what you're talking about him working subconsciously, like I think he's also a big proponent of transcendental meditation.
Yeah.
And I think he writes all that stuff that you were just quoting in Catching the Big Fish, which is a book that he wrote about creativity. And that's what I think makes him so special. He works on such a subconscious level. He doesn't worry about explaining what's happening to himself or his cast even. He just approaches it from such an emotional place that he makes it work, And I think filmmakers try to emulate his sort of surrealism, but they really can't, because when his films are really working, it's also coming from an earnest place. It's not like I'm trying to create this strange thing. It's like, this is what makes sense. This is what's flowing from my creative spirit at this time. That all sounds really woo-woo, but it's kind of like with Lynch, especially later Lynch, you just have to let go and let the emotion of whatever you're seeing wash over you.
Yeah. He definitely writes on a more emotional level than a logical level. And I think that's when Mark Frost comes in and he's like, Dave, this doesn't make sense. I need to write a story here.
Well, that's why he wasn't good for TV.
Yeah.
Even though, Twin Peaks, I definitely think is probably his cornerstone masterpiece. And how do you feel about Sheryl Lee in this movie?
Some of the best performance, transition I've seen. It's surreal to me to see her in Twin Peaks, which I thought was very hammy, and in this, which is very genuine. And I think my headcanon again, I think that Twin Peaks was made to parody a lot of what was popular at the time, meaning they even have a soap opera. They had a soap opera on Twin Peaks, which was a parody of soap operas, but I think Twin Peaks was a soap opera parody, and that's why a lot of the characters are very hammy and are very over the top. Being an English kid, soap operas mean something very different to me than it does the American audience, which is, again, that's another layer of difference that I had to get over. But I've seen like I can't remember any of the names of the popular ones.
Days of Our
But
Lives,
Days of Our Lives. I've seen a
All
few
My
episodes of
Children.
and like Dallas and stuff like that.
Well, it's
And
interesting what you talk about with things being hammy because I just watched an interview with Grace Zabriskie, who plays Laura's mother, and she said when they showed the pilot of Twin Peaks to an audience, there's a scene where she screams for a long time repeatedly, and a couple of the audience members laughed, and some reporters came up to her at the end and were like, "Weren't you offended?" But she talks about how the tone is elevated with what David Lynch is doing, and they push that tone, and you're picking up on a tone of it going slightly over the top,
yeah,
And the reporter said, "Oh, so you were playing it for laughs?" And she said, "No, I was not." And that kind of gets to the root of what is so special about Twin Peaks is it's like it is absurd, it is over the
it's
top, and it
just
is
surreal.
satirizing soap operas, but it's coming from an earnest place, and that's what I think makes it unique.
Like even this here with Bobby. Bobby is such an odd character. Oh, how 90s is this living room?
Dana Ashbrook be still my heart. I think I'm Team Bobby. I know he's a bad guy, but sorry, he's a hottie.
He is. My wife told me the same thing to my face while we watched it.
Sharon said, "I liked Cheryl's performance here. Nice to give Laura a solid story." And my emotion has evolved with this. Sometimes I think this film asks too much of her.
Yeah.
And, she was a fairly new actress. She was completely new to film. But by the end, I think it's inarguable that she gives an incredibly brave performance, and one that again has only grown in appreciation with time.
Definitely.
But then you have moments with her having to cry and say "gobble gobble" like we just saw, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you play that?
And I think Lynch is. You said he was very hands off in season 2, but can you imagine getting stage directions from David Lynch? No, you need to be more flamboyant like a fish, but not in the ocean, in the waves of time and space itself.
Well,
Okay, so sadder?
that Cheryl Lee talks about that in interviews too. That it's like as subconscious as his approach is, it's kind of like you as an actor have to just let go and get
Yeah.
out of your own way and let him take the lead and tap into the emotion more than because a lot of actors, it's like all about intention and what are you trying to do in this scene? What is your goal? What are you trying to get? But Lynch doesn't work that way. So I think actors even have trouble even explaining what it's like working with Lynch. But the proof is in the pudding if you see, especially any of his central performances in these films. Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive, Laura Dern in Inland Empire especially. It's pretty magical what he gets out of them, even when the material seems to make no sense.
I'd love to have a conversation with David Lynch. I'm sure he'd just scream at me for a long period of time. Put your phone down, live in the moment, live in the dream of tomorrow. Okay?
James Hellier is correct. The best U.S. soap opera was Dark Shadows. Because it was the only one with a vampire. So,
Wait, what? One soap opera supposed to be realistic?
do you not know Dark Shadows? Oh my god.
No, I don't. But
Oh,
this house went on sale like in 2012 or something.
did it?
Yeah, and I was begging everyone I knew. I was like, buy the house! Buy the house! And I believe in the return, when this house reappears and someone knocks on the door, the person who's in there is the current owners of the house.
I think I heard that too, yeah. Her name is Mrs. Tremont or Mrs. Chalfont. I know we just saw Chalfont, but I think there's some... Again, can't remember. Just names that I know from Twin Peaks that it'll never be clear to me who's who. Yeah, Sharon, I think the Dark Shadows remake by Tim Burton was pretty solid. I mean, it's not the original series, of course, but definitely not a big fan of Tim Burton's later work, but fun movie.
Oh, I forgot that film existed. With
Yeah.
yeah, okay. So that was based on a sitcom. Sorry, a soap opera.
Yeah, so it was sort of like somebody in the chat could probably explain it better than I could because I only know Dark Shadows sort of in passing. But it was a soap opera, and the lead was Barnabas Collins, who was a vampire. So it was sort of like the history of this family.
These multiple, very quick, snappy, flowy scene transitions of they're reminding me a lot of Lost Highway now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of an auteurish kind of director like David Lynch. You can see the DNA of all of their films in individual bits and bobs.
Oh yeah, they're all connected for sure.
So this actor, I forget his name. He was in an episode of a British sitcom
Okay.
called Red Dwarf once for one scene, and I cannot unsee him in that show. Every time I see him, I've seen him pop up in a variety of things, and I'm always like, it's the guy from Red Dwarf, that one scene. Lenny Von Dolan.
That's his name?
I believe so. Ms. Swift over on YouTube is saying, rest in peace, Lenny Von Dolan.
And see, this stuff is weird because this, his character is something that I believe was created. This whole Meals on Wheels stuff happened after Lynch was less involved.
Yes.
So it's weird in the movie because it's like, oh, this is a character I hadn't written and didn't really care about, but I'm bringing him in here just to move the story along.
He's a useful tool, and
Yeah.
He's a tool that literally adds complexity to Laura.
Sure.
Even with like pantomime makeup like that, it's still creepy. It adds just that layer of uneasiness. But yeah, he does have phenomenal eyes. I could swim in them.
So yeah, James Hellier said Dark Shadows was a gothic daytime soap opera set in the main town of Collinsport. The ratings were poor, and then Dan Curtis gambled on introducing the character Barnabas, who was a vampire. And that's where it took off.
Interesting.
I didn't know there was a 90s one, though. I had no idea. So thanks for informing us, chat. Chaos Sphere said, she said the line. Phonics said, drop. She's scary, great performance. Yeah, it only gets better. She's stupendous in this. And I don't really know her work from anything else. I know she's in John Carpenter's Vampires, which I sort of like.
I need to rewatch it because I have not seen that since like the early 2000s,
Yeah.
and I hated it. I was like, James Woods, you aren't cool. Why do you think you're cool?
Yeah, that movie, it's kind of like you have to watch it now through 2023 lenses and be like, oh, this is about toxic masculinity. These dudes fucking suck.
Okay, yeah, they really do. The Fan. I had actual nightmares of this fan when I was a kid. So here's the thing when it comes to horror with me. Like Robin, our CEO, Robin, was talking a lot recently about watching the Insidious movies and how frightening they are to him. They don't frighten me remotely, like at all. But I get scared by a lot of audio stimulation. So the movie that no one is scared of, The Skinamarink, freaks me out. Like, it freaks me out to the core. And something that Lynch does very well is sound design. And his sound design is just... It grabs hold of my spine and just rips it to shreds. I get so terrified when it comes to just audio input.
Yeah, nobody
That's
does.
why ASMR doesn't work with me, because when you start whispering into a mic, I collapse like a cheap suit.
It just makes me want to vomit, kind of. I just hate hearing people's mouth sounds.
Ugh, yeah.
But I will watch ASMR of dogs sniffing into little microphones. I'm sure you've all seen
Oh yeah, like hedgehog sniffs as well. That's adorable.
that.
And Miguel Ferrer.
She's preparing a great abundance of food. Hilarious. See, this movie does have humor in it. It's just once it really gets going, it's kind of taken out. Um,
Yeah. These
was
women
there
had my heart as a child, and still to this day.
Madchen? I don't know if you ever know how to pronounce her name, but she is just a stunningly beautiful person.
Yes. All of the leading ladies in Twin Peaks. Oof, just Audrey Horne awakened something in me as a child.
I
It
always
never
say
went
it's the
away.
most beautiful mole God ever placed on a face because
Yes.
she just looks she's so stunning. I love that Rolling Stone cover where they all sort of have the same big hair and are in denim. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah, beautiful cover, beautiful women.
Question of the day: would you accept a painting or a picture from a strange grandma with her stranger grandson
I love
who's
it.
wearing you?
I love it. I say this all the time. I want to experience, and my partner gets so mad at me. He's like, "Please don't say that." I'm like, "I want to experience the paranormal. Like, I want to have a visitation from a ghost because I don't believe in it at all. I'd love to believe. I would love to believe. Show me, demons, get at me. I'll go to an exorcist after. I just want to know you're real." Any Black
Demons
Lodge
come at me.
denizens want to pop up and give me a framed portrait, please?
Move to Portland and maybe you'll find some in parking
Yeah,
lots.
yeah.
My God, the foliage in this house. Oh my God. Okay, watching Buffy, you must see this kind of set all the time as well.
Oh yeah,
Because there's something just so 90s about everything here.
for sure.
I know we've been on such an 80s kick for like a nostalgia for the last seems like a decade now. And we're finally getting into 90s nostalgia and it's so surreal to me seeing like a 90s kid costume at Spirit Halloween. That makes me feel old.
Well, Jurassic
And
Park is 30 today, and that's the first
yeah,
movie I ever saw in the theater. So,
yeah,
um,
that hurts.
I also neglected to mention I did meet Cheryl Lee at a convention once.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and I get press kit photos that I like. You know, black and white photos that used to be sent to uh, press outlets before the internet.
Yeah,
And I got her to sign my photo. I should have dug it out for this, but I didn't. She was a lovely person.
that's good. When your house is the place that is not safe for you, where do you run?
Yeah.
Bob, you silly rascal, says Fronic. Oh, Bob. But the context, like if you strip away the surreal nature of it and you
Hmm.
just accept the metaphor that it's sexual abuse,
Yeah.
the horror is just
Yeah.
it's too brutal. That's why you need the surreal nature to keep you from like weeping and being just destroyed by the idea of it.
Hmm.
Because again, if your
And
house isn't safe and your parents aren't safe, well, nothing
yeah.
is.
And this movie really, uh, you know, Cheryl Lee talks about how victims of incest and rape victims have come up to her and said that this is a very important movie for them um, because it's showing a very true to life horror in a deeply empathetic and painful way um, through this weird Lynchian abstraction, and it
Yeah.
totally works. Because I love that Ray Wise, um, Bob possesses him, but he's also Bob is him.
Yeah.
Um, it's the he Bob is the evil that men do. He's not, but he's not. If men didn't do evil, then Bob wouldn't be around. It's sort of like
Yeah,
I'm
self-fulfilling prophecy, really, isn't
the
it?
words are escaping me, but you know what I mean.
The idea of evil, which came first, chicken or the egg? Is it men
Yeah.
doing evil that birthed the evil, or was evil
Mhm.
always there influencing people?
Mhm. Ms. Swift said Madchen Amick, one of the few actresses who can make a movie about a killer dress work. And
Wait, which film is that?
that is I'm Dangerous Tonight, Toby Hooper TV movie.
Oh, wait
Um,
to see that.
yes, where she, I think an Aztec cloak is fashioned into a dress that she wears, and it makes the wearer evil.
Yes. Yes, 1,000 times yes.
Unfortunately, it's not quite as good as it sounds, but definitely worth a watch if you like Toby.
I love Toby Hooper.
I
Life
want to love
Force any day.
I want to love Toby Hooper. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, probably my favorite horror movie, but everything after that. I mean, I get Life Force, love Poltergeist, um, but I think he was a little bit of a one-trick pony.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Texas Chainsaw 2 is a different beast than Chainsaw
no, it's
1.
great. It's great, but there's a lot that keeps me from loving that one as well.
Yeah.
The Mangler, people are trying to convince, if you're plugged into Twitter or, horror blogs in any way, people are trying to come around on the Mangler now. No. No, don't even bother.
This whole sequence. James Elliott says he likes the Mangler.
Oh no, somebody say that. Well, James, tell me what you like about the Mangler. Maybe I need to rewatch it with new eyes.
Oh. Which has the better chainsaw battle, Chainsaw 2 or Motel Hell?
Oh
Let's ask the audience if you've seen it. A 1 in the chat for Chainsaw 2 and a 2 for Motel Hell. That's
yeah,
a tough one.
I have no horse in this race. I love Grace Zabriskie though. She's definitely one of my David Lynch repertory players that I love the most. Um, the best is Inland Empire, when she's the little old lady from next door. Brutal fucking murder. Gets really
She
fun.
is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Again, the character in The Return, the nightmare that she's living in. Doesn't she eat someone's face?
I think she does, and she's watching animals eat each other on the television.
Yeah, she takes her face off and the creature devours somebody.
Also, a really sad example of life imitating art. I read today that she had two daughters. One died in 1996, and the second one died in 2019. Um,
Oh,
so yeah, that's a real shame to hear about her life. But she's had some interesting quotes about it. Um, just sort of finding a way to continue living despite the pain. So, kind of feeds into her character, really.
yeah. Leland's got some good eyes as well.
Oh yeah,
Always liked Ray. Again, this is a far more nuanced character to play. It's you have to show a lot of vulnerability while being threatening. And you'd think one completely makes the other redundant, but no. Leland's one of my favorite characters from Twin Peaks. And how the Leland dance didn't take off is a mystery to me. Why aren't there people on the dance floor doing this all the time?
That's my favorite Piper Laurie moment too, when she's like, they're like
Yeah, when she
dancing
comes in,
around.
go do something. And she's like,
But this is also why the surrealism and sort of the abstraction really works, because he's two people, right? But
yeah.
that's sort of how abusers are with the abused. Like, it's her father and she loves him and he has loving moments, but he's also a complete fucking monster. Um,
And yeah, you have people say, just get out of there. It's not that easy. It's never that easy. Like in toxic relationships, when you have a love for somebody, even when they do nothing but harm, there's
mhm.
that one moment. There's that twinkle in the night sky that just reminds you, oh hey, this person actually cares. And then you trick yourself into thinking it's fine. These bad moments will pass. It's not all bad. It's painful to remove a hook. Is that Mad Matt? Is that the poster for? Is that Reaper? The TV show that was in like the early 2000s that I completely forgot about until now? Yeah, he plays the devil, doesn't he? Oh my god.
Calbot said, I prefer Hollywood chainsaw hookers. Me too. Any movie with Michelle Bauer wins by default.
I want to peel the wallpaper off that room.
It would be really satisfying, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. It's like ripping off dead skin.
There was also a funny quote from Lynch that I read. He was like, I have a thing for curtains. I don't know why. I've never been in theater, but I have curtains in everything.
Again, just the idea of Lynch talking to the set designer. Rip off some of the wallpaper there. But Mr. Lynch, we just put it up. Rip it off. It needs to be torn there. Why? Don't ask questions. I've seen many people say that that little kid is a representation of childhood David Lynch.
My mind always says that too, but I don't know that that's ever been proven.
The amount
But
of
that's
times
also a
I've nearly
great thing about
purchased
him
that.
is he refuses to explain his work.
Yeah,
I
there is
think
this lengthy video, a big video essay that I've seen on YouTube. It's like 4 hours long that explains this guy has solved Twin Peaks, and he says it's a television show. And I think Lynch was asked about it at one point. He went, "That's fucking absurd. Of course it's not." It's just like, well, that's one answer.
I always say this, and at the risk of sounding like a major douchebag, it's like trying to explain a lot of David Lynch movies kind of robs them of their pleasure, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and Cheryl Lee even says, more so than other directors, she watched, this movie recently. Um, Whenever this interview was, it was like a 2017 interview, and she said, he's the kind of director that you come to it differently at every point in your life and see and understand things in different ways. Um, and that's part of the major appeal. It's all about interpretation. And for him to explain anything, you know,
It
sort
robs
of,
it of meaning.
yeah,
Yeah, because part of the experience is coming to an understanding.
yeah. The sentient severed arm, Ms. Swift said. Wasn't he canceled, and that's why he wasn't in The Return?
I think the actor and Lynch do not get along. I
Okay,
think
okay. I think he might have said some racist things, maybe
that's
something else.
also possible.
But I love The Return that he becomes a flesh tree.
A nightmare fuel, you mean? My sleep paralysis demon.
Wild wild that Heather Graham is in this, actually.
So this is like the most sequel-y stuff from Twin Peaks because for years, I was wishing for some kind of conclusion to how's Annie? How's Annie? I still, to this day, do not have an answer for that because I don't think Annie was mentioned once in the return.
I actually read that they had intended to make 2 more films after this. Um, so the whole Annie appearance right there would have majorly factored in with her writing it in the diary. But this film did really poorly, so it never happened.
Yeah. I think James Hellier said it earlier on, but Mark Frost has written a couple of books about Twin Peaks, which essentially creates narrative to tie things together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Miss Swift is saying it here. Oddly, this makes more sense now that I've seen some of the return.
Huh.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me now that I've seen a lot of the return.
Yeah.
This is the water. This is the well. Drink deep and ascend.
That was great, Dub.
You're welcome. I'm here all week.
Speaking of Mark Frost, I thought something was very interesting. I read that Lynch and Frost first got connected because they were both interested in adapting this work about Marilyn Monroe, a book. I think it's called Goddess. And David Lynch was sort of like interested in the idea of a woman in trouble, which is a term he returns to with Inland Empire. It's actually the tagline for Inland Empire, a woman in trouble. But I thought it was funny because there was a lot of talk last year when Andrew Dominic, I think that's his name, released Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe movie. A lot of people compared what Ana de Armas goes through in that movie to Fire Walk with Me, which I don't think quite, aligns. I think that's kind of an ugly movie, but kind of interesting that they saw the same thing in Marilyn Monroe, and that's why David Lynch was initially interested in that project, which never came to fruition, but led to this film.
I'm okay with that.
I hate Leo. Oh my god.
Well, yeah, Leo's the worst.
Well, the worst thing is the fucking curly ponytail. Can we not?
Don't you like Leo when he's a potato for most of season 2? with the hat on his head and...
And I'm sorry, was the ponytail a Lynch decision, or did the actor show up like that? Because somebody needed to cut that thing off.
It's important to me that Leo wears a ponytail.
Disgusting.
Leo Johnson feels like such a Stephen King villain, doesn't he?
Oh, for sure, yeah. Small town sociopath.
Oh yeah, and Jacques, the brothers that all just innocuously have very American French accents. The whole One-Eye Jack sequence is odd, but it has a really good payoff. Like, I don't like that certain characters spend so much time there, but I love the payoff. I love the rescue.
Do you mean in the show?
Yes, in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Because this one, I was about to say, is the Bang Bang Club.
Oh, the Bang Bang. I have been... So they had a pop-up bar in LA at one point, and I went, and it was like going to Disneyland for me, because they had sycamore trees that you walked around, and they have the Bang Bang Club.
Oh my god.
Oh, it was lovely.
Yeah, the Bang Bang Club, I mean, we're coming up on it. This is my favorite stretch of the movie. Roadhouse. Matt said Roadhouse.
Here we thought we'd have a difficulty talking about stuff in this 2-hour and 10-minute movie.
No, I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Do you like the Roadhouse performances in The Return?
Oh, I love them. I love them so much. The Nine Inch Nails.
That's why it's so special too. Is it's so long, and he has so much room to breathe. And they gave him they like sort of the show was a bit more inhibited, right? Because of, like we said, the dictates of network television in the 90s. But,
Yeah.
and I hate the reboot era we're in. I think it's pretty lame. And
Yeah.
most of the projects that been undertaken just do not deliver on what we hope they would deliver. But the return delivers in so many unexpected ways because it's sort of isn't at all what you could have even anticipated.
Arguably, it's the worst sequel show you could have. Like, it gives you no answers. It gives you no closure. It just asks more questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of "How's Annie?" I'm now asking "What year is it?"
But that's why it's genius, because for
Yeah.
every answer there is 10 questions at more. And but yeah, it's amazing that Showtime said, "Here, do what you want. Make your 18-hour movie, and we'll leave you alone." And my opinion, I kind of like Inland Empire was his last theatrical feature, and then The Return. And I'm kind of like, if he if he kicks the bucket, sorry, knock on wood, but like he doesn't need to make anything else, in my opinion. Like
Agreed.
he's reached his Everest. Um, Perfect filmography.
And he's brought back the questions for Twin Peaks,
Yeah.
which is something that he initially lost, and it wasn't his fault. Why is there a dog just walking the streets? Oh, log lady. I did tear up in The Return with the log lady.
Yeah. And that was right before she died, right?
Moments before,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Miguel Ferrer died before the show was airing, also, I think.
And Harry Dean Stanton.
Oh my god, yeah. It's really special that they got it that they were able to bring all those people in when they did.
I believe the Doc as well, because the Doc appears in a Skype call in Hawks. Futuristic sheriff's office with a PC that just raises out of the desk. Oh,
Yeah,
Sharon is
Sharon.
saying the log lady is a spirit animal.
Yeah, Sharon, I agree. Not everything needs a reboot. I just, I really can't think of a reboot besides The Return that has been worthwhile. Dom, do you have any that you think that recently that you've enjoyed?
For sure, but it's because it's nostalgia bait. But the Karate Kid sequel series, Cobra Kai, I deeply enjoy. It's just fun. It's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
In the exact same way that Twin Peaks: The Return is the polar opposite. I got nothing that I wanted, and yet I loved it.
Yeah. I'm just seeing those trailers for Dial of Destiny, the new Indiana Jones, and I'm seeing it having a 58% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's just confirming everything I feared about it. So,
Yeah. Oh, Indy.
Tony Cruz also just died.
I know. We're getting to that age now, Rocco. Like I never thought it would come. We're getting to that age where all of our the people that we grew up watching are passing. I know Lynch is very particular about his musical choices as well. And this is beautiful. It's melancholy, yet it's haunting and inviting.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this is one of those signature Lynch moments where it's sort of like you don't know why you're overcome with emotion,
But you are.
but you can
Yeah.
project onto it whatever you personally are feeling. You know.
Exactly. And that's, yeah, like you said, that's the beauty of a lot of Lynch's work.
Mm-hmm.
When it's just raw emotion on the screen, where visuals marry with audio perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And you just you unapologetically feel so much.
It's like the height of that is Club Silencio in Mulholland Drive. Like, that's one of the greatest scenes in filmmaking.
Yeah.
But it's completely sort of divorced from the rest of the film. Like, and you can watch it divorced from the rest of the film.
Yeah, you can.
And you're still just overcome with this emotion that is universal and unpin downable. You don't know what it is or where it's coming from.
You just feel.
Yeah. Frag Lord said, "Can't wait to see Indiana Jones in the denial of reality." Well, between Star Wars and this, Harrison is laughing all the way to the bank. So at least we're giving him a cushy retirement.
He's getting a
Semi.
lot of appreciation that he deserves as well.
Yeah.
Like when he was at Cannes, everyone loved him for him. Ah, yes, a lager beer. Actually, that's one of the things that David Lynch does very well as well, which we'll see soon. It's one of the most honest depictions of a nightclub where you can't hear a sodding thing. It's
So smart.
so loud. Because that's a pet peeve of mine. Every time there's a movie where there's a nightclub scene and the two characters just like whisper to each other, it's like, no way! You can't hear Smeg.
He actually said he hates having to like tune down the music so that you can hear the actors talk. So he was
Yeah.
just like, let's just fucking subtitle them.
Phonic is saying Social Network did it too. That's the one, like, everyone says watch The Social Network as a good film. I care so little for the narrative that I don't want to watch it. Even though David Fincher is a great director and I need to watch more of his works, I just,
Well, today I'm like, I keep saying the death of art is films about products. Like
yeah.
we're getting the Hot Cheeto movie, the
But the
Blackberry
Barbie movie
movie,
kind of looks
Hair.
interesting.
Barbie movie, okay, Barbie movie is a different story. Do not, there will be no Greta Gerwig or Margot Robbie slander here. But
Oh no, I want to see it. I can't wait.
it does
I'm
look
hyped.
amazing. Oh, and I love Donna takes that shot. She's like, I can hang with you.
Uh-huh. Again, like you said, the casting choice, having such a small, petite frame, exude that kind of confidence.
Yeah.
It foreshadows the Donna of Twin Peaks and where she goes and ends up.
And it also sort of pokes holes in Laura's sort of badass put upon demeanor and exposes her for the frightened and lashing out little girl she really is, you know?
Yeah.
Because she plays it like a self-actualized woman who knows what she's doing, but she's really a high schooler on a self-destructive path, you know? So for Donna to just sort of put that on and be like, I'm seeing through this and I'm going to play along, I think is a really powerful moment.
Definitely. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes.
And this is where the movie starts getting hard to watch. But
Oh yeah, because you're reminded these are high schoolers.
yeah.
But it's supposed to be horrifying. That's the tragedy of Laura Palmer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it just adds complexity to the character.
Mm-hmm. This is so good. I love the music. Also, this
Yes.
is my favorite part. In a second.
Why don't we normalize that kind of dancing in nightclubs? I can get behind that.
Welcome to Canada. That's my favorite.
Welcome to Canada. When I go to Canada, if I don't immediately walk into a place like this, if this isn't the airport to Canada, I'm going to be disappointed.
Lizard Man said, sorry I'm not being funny, or I expected more Black Lodge stuff. It's okay, Lizard. It's not a funny movie. Yeah. it's kind of a downer, so we'll just go with the mood.
Oh yeah, it's a downer of a movie for sure.
He did say, are any of us okay right now? No, we're not. Lizard Man said, I'm Canadian. I'm pretty sure this isn't it. That's really disappointing to hear, Lizard.
Very sad. I hope you are okay up there. I know there's a lot of wildfires.
Oh, yeah.
Be safe.
And another line she knows not what to do with. I am the muffin.
Exactly. Luckily, in this kind of environment, in this place where the character is right now, intoxicated, very surrealist, you can just play it as kind of drunk.
I am as blank as a fart.
You gotta laugh, otherwise you'll be questioning stuff. I refuse to believe it was this easy for high schoolers to get beers. I went to Utah a few months back, bearing in mind I'm in my 30s with valid identification, and the people of Utah were like, "This isn't US ID," and I was like, "It's a green card. It is." I was like, "It's not a passport though, or a driving license." I was like, "I've got them. They're just not American." It's like, no, 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 not allowing that.
One of the only times I was in Canada was back when I was 18, and it was at we were in Montreal, and I was at La Ronde Amusement Park, and they served beer there, and I was so wasted. I was still drunk when I got on the plane to go home the next morning. So
Wow.
I think it's easier in Canada, maybe, or it might have been back then.
Seeing everyone else in this dingy mess of a club as well, just the contrast between our characters, our central characters, and the dregs that are in this plays. It just shows how much of a fish out of water everyone is, even when they're trying so hard, like Laura is, to be a part of this world.
Hmm. It's also nice, we hear so much now, especially about directors we loved decades back about, less than savory behavior on sets.
Oh,
But every actress who's worked with David Lynch is just gushing with love. Um, Cheryl Lee especially is like saying all of these scenes, as difficult as much of this was emotionally, he made it really comfortable and easy and supportive and not at all creepy, as creepy even though it looks creepy. So it's nice to hear about an artist you love.
yeah, it's nice to hear that. Oh, beneath the wacky phone slapping insanity that is Lynch, there's a heart for humanity in there.
Well, I
Because a lot
think.
of his works are cynical as well, aren't they? Like, very cynical. But there's also a lot of hope. Again, like Twin Peaks, the town is kind of euphoric.
Hmm.
The people there are just better than good.
Hmm.
And again, in the return, when they're not, when you see the mask slip and the horrors of humanity are kind of bleeding like a virus into Twin Peaks, it shows you how special that time was.
Absolutely. But I think that's also why it's interesting that he has so many central female characters and his films are
Yeah.
built around women and female emotions. And, that's sort of, to go back to the blonde comparison, Andrew Dominic, just in his speech and the way the film is handled, he has some misogynistic tendencies.
Mm.
Um, and that's what's markedly different with David Lynch is the content can be misogynistic, but the intention is not at all misogynistic.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, even with Eraserhead, the themes are of masculine fears.
Hmm.
And you could read it as very misogynistic because those fears shouldn't. There should be universal fears, right? Like being an ill-equipped parent. That's
Hmm.
universal. But we see it all the time with a feminine twist of being an incompetent mother.
Hmm.
Those characters are always villainized, though, aren't they?
Yeah,
And an
absolutely.
incompetent father, though villainized, it's nowhere near as bad. Like a deadbeat dad is a deadbeat dad, and
Yeah.
no, it can do without him. And Eraserhead takes it to a very vile level,
Yeah.
and that's how we should be feeling. And like, a bad dad is a bad dad. You shouldn't be okay with a bad dad.
Well, Eraserhead is also interesting because it's like it feels like it's coming from a place of self-loathing.
Yeah,
Because Jack Nance is, he's not ineffective and terrible because of any outside female. It's not. He's just sort of an ineffectual character.
yeah.
It's
It's no
been a
one's
long
fault but
time since
him.
I've seen it, so it's hard for me to. But that's how I remember it anyway.
Next week's watch. No, I'm not gonna. See, now I'm getting Lost Highway vibes again with
Oh yeah,
the close-ups of the musicians.
David's edgiest movie with the Rammstein soundtrack. I actually like that one though. I think all that stuff really works for it, but it is definitely like his goth rock movie, which is weird.
Yeah. Looking directly at the camera there, aren't you, Ronette?
Oh yeah.
God, why would you go to Jock for anything? Wish George Clooney and some vampires would show up, says Ms. Swift.
And I love this that she starts screaming about the sweater because she can't express how she's actually feeling.
Yeah.
So she's doing the inane mean girl big sister thing. Don't wear my stuff.
Yeah. Whatever it takes, I guess.
Oh yeah, Chaos Sphere said Rammstein and Marilyn Manson. I always forget Marilyn Manson is in there.
Oh yeah,
That,
he was in the film as
yeah,
well, wasn't he?
that's not aged well, but
Nope.
but it's of its time in a way that I really like.
I'll be able to get my Twin Peaks fix soon because there was a game that came out in late 2000s called Alan Wake, very Twin Peaksy,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and a sequel is coming out this year, I think.
nice. I mean, I've had this morning in my 20s, waking up, having gone
Oh
into
yeah,
not knowing what happened at a club. So this is very relatable.
I'm cursed with always knowing my drunken shenanigans. The only times when I don't remember is when I actually pass out. I'm somewhat of a sleepwalker, and drunken, passed out Dom is he gets up and goes around.
Oh no! Oh no!
And so when people say like, "Don't you remember this happened last night?" I'm like, "Nope." Did I say weird Twin Peaksy style dialogue? Like I'm as open as a fart or whatever Jacques said? Because if
Blank is a
so,
fart.
yeah, I'm as blank as a fart. Because yeah, apparently I speak nonsense. I also speak fluent Spanish in my sleep.
Is that a
Are
skill
you?
you have when you're during your waking hours?
No. Which is a
Uh,
shame because I'm married into a Spanish family. So.
uh, it's quite a skill.
Oh, it's grand. Oh, oh, Leland. It's layers of feeling uncomfortable as well. It's so many different layers of feeling uncomfortable. Oh yes, when he screams at the truck driver.
Yeah, this. What's his name? The other Renault. Uh,
Yeah, it's the other Renault, isn't it? I can't remember his name. Oh my! Is this the same stretch of road that is in The Return where Harry Dean Stanton's just sitting there?
it's entirely possible. I don't remember specifically the scene.
Okay, yeah. Watching the scene without the return context, it's kind of comical because it's nonsense. There's so
What's the
much
context?
nonsense. Well, the context is they're both creatures from the Black Lodge,
Right.
and the corn is their energy source, I believe.
Yeah.
And if it's canned and at the store, because the store is where they live, and now I realize what I'm saying is nonsense.
See, and that's what I just think holds the movie back is the mythology stuff. Like I said, I
Yeah.
like to think of it as one and the same with his uh, Lost Highway, Inland Empire, and Mulholland Drive. But obviously, it doesn't. It's a Twin Peaks movie. It's just the mythology screaming about corn. I don't know.
Lizard Mate asking, are corn aliens involved in this murder? Yeah.
Would we call them corn aliens?
Well, they're alien to this plane of existence,
Yeah,
and they harvest corn,
they do
kind
love
of.
corn. They love corn, but it's creamed corn, only
It
creamed corn.
is. Only creamed corn. The most delicious and nutritious of meals. So good you can pick it up with your hands. Ugh.
There's a really revolting image of creamed corn later in this movie, so everyone.
Is there ever
There'll
not
be a
a
trigger
revolting
warning.
image of creamed corn? It's not a very appetizing looking meal. It's not going to win any beauty awards for
Pretty
sure.
good though. Pretty. I think is. I think it's a probably American South thing though. You might not have a taste for it.
Oh, I enjoy the taste. It's just the visuals. It's oh, her performance, the trying to get a hold of what's going on and failing to do so, and the way that her voice just quivers, it's grand.
Yeah, it's horrific. Lizard Man said, "Oh, thank God, he was only imagining sexually assaulting his daughter." No, I think this actually happened.
But yeah,
He set up a date. Yep, and he sees that her pals are Ronette and Laura, and he chooses not to engage with it. Um,
oh wow, ice trays. Look at that tiny child's bike. This this is the place. Oh, that's the place in the God, I sound like an absolute psychopath. In The Return, this is where David Bowie ends up as a kettle.
oh, okay. See, I need to revisit for sure. I love this jumping kid. For some reason, it makes me think of Dom as a child,
Yeah, well, I probably did that.
or Dom now. Is everyone's cultural touchstone for Ray Wise Twin Peaks? Or I know he was on some Star Trek stuff, right?
This is where we need Andrew. He's the
Oh
biggest
yeah,
Star Trek fan than I am. But I'm sure the audience will let us know.
yeah. I associate him with Twin Peaks. I know he's in Jeepers Creepers too, but I know he's had a really long career and done a lot of stuff.
Oh, yeah. He was in a lot, says Ms. Swift, yeah. My cultural touchstone is Red Alert too. What? Why is there a sign saying "treat him right" on the on the door for that garage?
Maybe the mechanic, he just wants to be treated with.
Dignity and
I forget,
respect.
Phonic. I completely forget he's in RoboCop. Yeah,
Oh
you're right.
yeah, along with Miguel Ferrer.
Yeah, and he's still kicking, I think, so that's good.
Ray is, yeah. He looks good for his age as well. He seems to have stopped aging
Yeah.
a bit. Dead
Yeah.
End, JC2, RoboCop. Yeah.
Oh my God, Calbot! Yes, he was in Fresh Off the Boat. I forgot. Yes, that show
Oh,
is
Swamp
actually.
Thing.
Yeah. You guys are reminding me. He actually is in all this shit that I completely forgot about. So I do know more than this. I do know more from more than Twin Peaks.
There we go. James, hell yeah. I like how we've gone from Vegas being not No Country for Old Men land. What is it now? The Hills Have Eyes land to Randall Flagg Country. I'm
I
not
love
sure which I prefer.
it. I'll just always associate it with Sharon Stone because it's just
It's fine by me. I want them all to be true. So, Cheryl, I want you to stare at the ceiling. We'll flash a light against the corner of the room. Why do you have a whole tree in your house?
People love their plants.
Yeah, they do.
I've never been able to keep it alive. I also, so yeah, the movie also opens with a TV smashing like that. Um,
Yeah.
kind of, I personally, in my head canon, it's sort of David Lynch saying "fuck television."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He's done it at that point.
Stupid idiot box. Can't watch a movie on this thing.
And this is one of the clearest connections to the original series. This little
We
baggie.
need to read Laura's diary.
Conic,
I have not.
Of course, Naomi Watts' Lynch impression is the greatest of all Lynch impressions.
Oh, yeah.
But it's because it's Naomi Watts.
She's amazing. Also, she's a professional actress, man. I'm not a pro. Cut me some slack. But no, James, I have not yet visited the nuclear test site, so I haven't unleashed an army of nuclear irradiated mutant people on the land. Not yet. Although there have been some alien sightings over here in Vegas recently. So maybe they just got out. There's a fish in the percolator. God, there's so many Twin Peaks quotes now. Just gonna come flooding out of me.
Ms. Swift, who was in God's Not Dead too?
Wait, there's a sequel to that movie?
There sure is. We were all clamoring for one, and they gave us what we wanted.
That's good. Did you ever have a flashlight like that? Like a huge battery-powered mega flashlight?
No, I wish I did.
Oh, I had
I
several
could
of
get
those.
one now.
Yeah.
I really love her in this scene. Just how silly she's trying to be. And because it's like the one moment of lightness, and you can just imagine that both the actors were, she's trying to make him laugh, and I'm sure it was actually hard not to because it's so goofy.
The sheer amount of this darkness as well, it's
All-encompassing.
reminding me of Captain Scarlet, actually, because of the the Mr. Runs.
Lizard Man said at least she's having fun for once. That club was a ton of fun, Lizard Man. I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. Club Canada.
Club Canada. That was all of Canada.
Yep.
And Dana Ashbrook, I really like. I hadn't realized he was in so many '80s horror things, but Waxwork and things like that. He had a pretty cool
Yeah.
career as well.
Have you seen him in The Return? He's aged pretty
Oh yeah, no,
tastily.
he looks great.
Yeah.
I think we were trying to get him for I Saw 3 for what was it? Oh, Returning Living Dead Part 2. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, apparently he doesn't like to talk much about his old work. It's just not really his bag, which
That's
is a
fair.
shame because I think people would really like to hear from him. But
This is also something we. Oof.
yeah,
This is something we don't see or hear too much about in the show. Bobby killed a guy.
hmm
That I think that's the phrase that they say
yeah,
in Twin Peaks, and I don't think they go much beyond that because I think they just assume it's Laura's rambling.
hmm Also, I meant to bring this up earlier. It's just so interesting to see this, especially I like watching it on my Criterion disc. Um, it's just so clear and obviously made with film cameras on a film budget, which makes it
Yeah.
a completely different, gives it a different tactile feeling than it does on the television. Because even the restored, Twin Peaks doesn't look quite the same as the film version. So, um,
I mean, it can't. It's a very separate budget.
yeah, yeah.
Nowadays, everything's digital, which is a kind of a
Mhm.
shame. But I do miss film. See, that's the film nerd in me.
Yeah.
You can't shoot a film on an iPhone.
No, he doesn't like watching film on the iPhone.
Or you can't. You
I'd like to think David Lynch is a big fan of Tangerine.
because it's filmed on a phone.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a whole movie on your phone? Like,
No, no, that's so fucking nuts that anybody would. How many people are actually doing that? I could not do that.
I don't know. That's the thing.
I
Especially when
remember
it
when PS.
first came out.
Yeah, I remember
Like,
when PlayStation Portable was coming out, and I got Kill Bill Volume 1 on it, and I
yeah,
was trying to watch it on my eighth grade bus trip. I remember, and I'm like, I hate this. It's too small. Like,
yeah.
not
The
fun.
what were they called now? The discs, those UMDs or something?
I don't remember.
Universal Media Disc or something? The disc within the plastic capsule thing.
Yeah. Fraglord said, "I saw the Last Jedi on the mobile."
How many movies? Oh. See, Lynch would be proud of most of us not watching movies on our phones.
I really don't think it's a consistent problem. Like, who's doing it? I know Gen Z is just not watching movies.
Yeah.
So, oh, Sharon
No.
watches stuff all the time on her phone, so it's small but no problem.
Oof.
More
Don't know how
power
you
to you,
manage it.
Sharon.
Ah, James. Is his character a joke? He has to be, right?
You want to know what my least favorite part of Twin Peaks, uh, uh, in general, is his whole storyline with the woman in the second season, where he's
Mine
finding
as
the
well.
treasure.
Yep.
Fucking sucks.
It's terrible. Like,
It's
that's
the
why I
worst.
think his character's just a big joke.
Yeah, he's definitely the least interesting character overall to me, especially
Yeah.
main character.
And a lot of season 2 was dedicated specifically to him.
Yeah, and him and Donna and Laura's cousin singing into a tape recorder.
Oh, that scene. Oh boy.
Is it just one scene? Because I feel like it happens multiple times, but
I
that just
know!
makes my brain replay it.
Oh. Lovely
No, but
house, though.
I think Arnold has a stronger hairline than James Hurley, so I think it's held. I think it's his hairline has held up a little better still. Also, I've
Miss
never done
Swift, that
cocaine.
guitar scene was so goofy. Yeah. Did you say you've never? Oh, okay. You've never done cocaine.
No, no. How about you?
Never.
Never. Yeah, and movies like this make me go, nope,
Yeah. Nah, I'm good.
doesn't seem fun.
Now heroin, on the other. No, I'm joking. Yeah, poor cousin Maddie.
Yeah.
Cousin Maddie didn't deserve anything.
I love that too because she says she was just called in to shoot for 5 days as a dead body, obviously.
Uh-huh.
And then she got a call a week later from David Lynch, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to come back?" And she's like, "I'm dead." So
Don't worry, you'll be cousin Maddie.
yeah, yeah. Oh, and I guess she did film some like they had the picnic scene that they watch on the video recorder.
Yeah, where you find a motorcycle light in the reflection of Laura's eye.
Yeah. Speaking of heroin,
Oh yes, a pale white horse. Well, that's a classic symbol of death.
oh,
He came riding in on a pale white horse.
mm.
There's my literature nerd coming out there. I don't know why she was reading a book on how to speak German, though.
I know, it's really funny. There's a deleted scene where Leland comes in and he's trying to teach them Swedish.
Oh,
Because of
is it?
The Swiss people,
Yeah.
and it's really hysterical.
Okay, yeah. The oh, what's her name again? Well, what's his name? The owner of the hotel and his brother.
Ben Horn.
The Horns. I do
Mhm.
miss the Horns just eating a sandwich and jumping on desks and being kooky.
It's so funny. Yeah, this is the central scene really bad.
Yep. And again, the sound design, the all you hear is the ethereal humming. It's tense. It's so tense.
Also, the craziest thing in the world that Bob was a set dresser.
I know.
And they're like, "Do you do any acting?" And he was like, "Sure." So and then he became this.
The smoked cheese pig. Yes. Oh, not comfortable. Oh, did he play with frame rate for a second there?
I'm not sure. I think it might have just been the flashing.
It could have been, yeah. Oh. Oh. Thank you all for indulging me for this watch party, for this lovely film of mine. But this is a movie that makes you feel, and it's better than not feeling. And you should feel horrified by this scene. It's a horrible, horrible scene.
And yeah, Sharon said Bob is who Laura sees instead of the reality of who he really is. And that's what's so interesting too. Is she's asking the whole movie, "Who are you?" But she knows who he is. You know, um, it's sort of the victim thing where you create a separate reality or you block out the truth. And Bob is sort of a manifestation of that.
Yep. And again, the outside world looking at Laura, the girl who has it all. Why is she so sad at times?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this movie adds so much reason.
One problem I do have is Grace's character because Mrs. Palmer. Because I know it's very common, obviously, in households with abuse that she would turn a blind eye possibly or try not to know, but there's no real sense that she had any idea about this in the original
Mm.
series because the actors didn't know, right? It's not something she
Yeah.
could play. They didn't know who killed her until they were filming the episode. Um, but I think this, she's playing it as if she does have knowledge. So I think there's
Right.
sort of a disconnect there. Um,
Yeah, and in a lack of continuity.
yeah, yeah. Which isn't a big thing. I just think it sort of makes the character read way different, and it would if you could go to the original series and be like, oh wait, this is knowledge that she has, because she definitely sort of has a sense of it. I feel like.
For sure. Lizard Man saying that they need to retreat to their comfort media after this. Definitely, I heavily suggest we all hug our comfort blanket of media, whatever that may be. What is your comfort media, Lizard Man?
Good
Let's hear
question.
it.
Everyone on Twitter's been talking about cozy horror, so
What's cozy horror? Oh, this is a new phenomenon to me.
there was this really bad article in the Mary Sue about it was Twitter erupts frequently with everyone dialing an article somebody who didn't really know what they're talking about horror.
Mm.
But it did inspire a discussion about cozy horror, just things that you like. I did a podcast. I went on the Psychoanalysis, a horror mental health podcast a while ago, and they said pick a comfort horror movie. So I chose Horror Express.
Oh,
Yeah,
great film.
yeah. So
The soundtrack is so funky.
but it's a cozy movie, right? It's
Yeah,
a horror movie, but it's cozy. So, do any movies jump to mind when you say comfort horror or cozy horror?
yeah, Terror Vision.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because it's so goofy.
Yeah, I just saw that for the first time last year because I feel like it was kind of
Really?
hard to find.
I had it on VHS as a baby. Like
Yeah,
my brother watched it all the time.
yeah. For those who, I'm sure you've talked about it before, but Dom was into horror movies very early on as a kid.
There is a
Me,
picture of me floating around Creative EC's office somewhere of me as a toddler with the extra VHS tape that I would grow to love and appreciate right behind me.
that is so funny. However, I came to it quite a bit later. Like my first real horror movie that I sat through was The Ring in 2002 when I was around 12. Um, but since then, it's just been nonstop.
Yeah. Extra was imprinted on me at a young age. Yes, Sharon. Her room is like so not a teenage girl's room.
Also, I know it's gross, but like, it always makes me jealous of like smoking in bed. Like, I've always wanted to do that. I'm not really a smoker, never
I
have.
know.
I watch movies like this, and I'm like, oh, that kind of looks nice.
I know. It looks so aesthetically pleasing, even though I know it kills people and
Yeah,
it's horrible and it stinks.
yeah,
Science has failed us. They need to make a cigarette that you smoke just to look cool and doesn't do
yeah.
any harm to you.
I love this business with the phone here. It's so funny. I mean, funny, but just her try.
You got to take every laugh you can with this
Yeah.
movie. You got to grab it. I've had that kind of problem as well,
Yeah.
though.
And yeah, I'd be really interested. I don't know if they filmed this chronologically. I can't imagine they did, but it does feel like she warms up into the part really well. It's
Yeah.
the arc of the movie feels a little goofy in the start, but by the end of it, she's so fully in it. I just think it's really spectacular work.
It is. It truly is. And that's her little angel has gone. Could be a metaphor for a loss of innocence because she's acknowledging the nasty reality that's happening.
And then I think it's so interesting that people who want to help her, and this is very true uh, for victims. James just wants to help her, but she refuses his advances and is only going to run into the arms of people who are more destructive towards her, because it's too
Yeah.
scary to feel like you know, even coming from I have depression. It's scary to feel deserving. Like if somebody is
Oh,
like,
for
well,
sure.
you're treating me so nicely and so kindly, but I don't deserve that. I'm not worth that. Like, and that's a hard thing to even face.
Especially if you have self-esteem issues as well, and like a not a victim complex, but if you believe yourself to be the root of a lot of the problems, someone who's kind, caring, and someone you don't deserve are in danger for simply trying to help you because you'll drag
Hmm.
them into that pit of misery.
Hmm.
I think The Whale portrays that very well as well, of how there are so many people desperately trying to help someone and they
Hmm.
just don't let it happen.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I keep meaning to. Um, but yeah, I think that's like I keep saying over and over again. But that's what's so special is it's like the situation is extreme and surreal, but the
The,
performances he builds his movie around, the lead performances are always coming from such a realistic and painful emotional place,
yeah,
um, and that's the key to it. And this scene is spectacular too. Maybe her best acting in it, I think.
I agree. Ah, what could have been, eh?
But it's just like the Donna thing. She doesn't want to drag him. She feels unworthy, and she doesn't want to drag him down into what she's going through. Um,
Yeah. Oh my god, her eyes being so dilated as well.
Very.
Oh, did she just see the Jersey Devil? Ah, potentially. It's almost Lovecraftian. The people who know about the entities of the lodge are so broken, and those
Mhm.
that don't know are blissfully unaware,
Yeah.
totally unaffected by it. God, the close-ups couldn't get much closer, could we? We'd be checking out their dentistry work soon.
Yeah.
And that score. All right, I may just binge watch Twin Peaks after this. The nostalgia is building up so much in me.
Yeah, my partner's never watched it, but it's on our list, and I'm really excited to show him because he's actually an art. He went to art school. He's an art therapist actually, so he
Oh
loves stuff
wow.
like this. We went and saw Inland Empire together, and that was the first Lynch he ever saw. and he loved it, and that's special because like that's pretty much the last Lynch you start with. So
Yeah, I love that. That's such a parallel between my wife and I.
yeah, that's true. Actually, I completely forgot.
Just turning and like seeing them, and then be like, I really enjoyed that. And it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And see, I love this moment too because her acting is over the top and the music is over the top to match it. But there's something
Yeah,
so grotesque about it because it's this soap opera music, right? Um, it's almost like it's making fun of. It's almost pointing to the fact that there can be no happy ending there, like upending your
yeah.
expectations with those sort of things.
Rocking that double denim, oh Jacques.
He is Canadian.
That's true.
Canadian tuxedo. Have you heard? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. I wasn't sure.
A Twin Peaks watch party. Fraggle, I'd love to. It's a very long one though.
And Chaos Sphere said I still need to watch Inland. I highly recommend it. It's pretty long, like 240, but it I think it sort of flies by. It's a miracle that something so obtuse and crazy, is so watchable. I think it's definitely his most pure vision of what he was trying to do of everything in his films.
Same with the return episode. I think it's 6, which
Oh
is
yeah, black and
completely,
white one. Yeah.
yeah, it's nonsensical and it's beautiful. And my
Mhm.
wife, when she saw that episode and we saw the entire thing, she said, "Yeah, that one was my favorite episode out of all of them." And I was like, "Okay." Didn't think I could fall madder in love with you.
I also like that the actress who plays Ronette gets to do some more stuff here.
Yeah, because she got very little to do.
Yeah, very little in the original series, but she does really good in these scenes as well. The Mine of
Jacques,
Her,
could you not get a better mattress? It's falling apart.
and the implications of this are so disgusting because as
Yeah,
bad as it already was, but it's almost like Leland is doing this out of jealousy, and that just
yeah,
adds a whole new layer of awfulness.
yep. And again, I think coming from Twin Peaks, such a, like I said, like I described it as euphoric town,
Mm-hmm.
and then coming to this, seeing not just a shady underbelly, but scorched earth, hellfire, brimstone,
Yeah,
despicable behavior.
yeah.
The tonal whiplash is something else.
Well, that's why people hated it when it first came out. It was too grim,
Yeah.
And cherry pie and coffee and Agent Cooper being a plucky dude. Um,
Ms.
also,
Swift
they were
here,
just,
the owls are not what they seem, yeah.
but also they were just burned out on the show. I think a lot of the writing is just sort of like the audiences were openly hostile to this because they were so let down by the second season anyway. They were like,
Exactly, yeah. They went into it with a bitter taste.
yeah.
And again from Ms. Swift, can they see the entities of the lodge because they are broken? Or are they
Mm-hmm.
broken because they see the entities of the lodge?
Mm-hmm.
I would point towards holier than holy, nicer than nice Dale Cooper for that, because he seems to have the mildest of connections to this ethereal otherness, and he believes wholeheartedly in a lot of the Tibetan traditions that he was taught, and he doesn't seem broken. He seems like so well put together.
Mm-hmm. But by the same token, he does seek the lodge, so the
He
rest of
does.
the characters don't. Um,
No, the lodge just takes them.
Also, this sequence is really interesting because it's a major precursor to sort of torture porn 2000s.
It
Um,
is, isn't it? Yeah.
it could be taken directly out of that time frame. But then this is also sort of, this is before Lost Highway. Lost Highway has a lot of like similar sort of things going on with what is it called, with cameras. I've been talking so long.
It's going to come back to it like 3 a.m. and I'm going to get a
Yeah,
message from you. Oh, oh God. Oh, the nightmares.
Yeah, and the silent moments are really astounding.
Sound design, it's incredible.
Yeah, really important in his work and sort of underappreciated, really.
Yeah.
See, I don't need him running around though. I don't need it. I don't need that.
Uh,
Glad you saved Ronette, but come on.
I know, do more.
The angel could have opened the door, David. The angel found her, and the angel could have opened the door. We didn't need. Like I said,
Here's the bit that I'm still confused. Is
What's
putting on the ring a good or a bad thing for Laura?
yeah.
Because there's several characters that are telling her don't put the ring on.
Mm.
And there's other characters saying put the ring on. And ultimately it stops Bob from getting what he wants because he wanted Laura.
Yeah. And the prostitute who was killed previously wore the ring, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, yeah. Confounding.
And I believe in The Return, several tulpas wear the ring. Although I can't remember. I've only ever seen The Return once. I need to watch it again.
I feel like most people have only watched it the first time, but yeah, I guess it's time to revisit. It's just a big ask that.
Oh yeah, like you said, 18 hours was it?
Yeah, a lot.
Sharon is saying that she's embracing her fate. That's why she did it, and that's how she was able to stop the abuse. Lizard Man, the dad killed her. All right, that tracks. Yes.
Lizard, I haven't been responding to you asking. I was just kind of like, when is he gonna realize it's a foregone conclusion? So,
The sycamore trees. Every time I walk past sycamore trees, I have to quote Twin Peaks. It's the law. Someone was mentioning that they're playing Diablo 4 somewhere in the chat. This image, this kind of imagery of just desolate brown ground and bone white trees and an ichor on the ground reminds me of Diablo so much.
really.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think it's because when I first played Diablo on the PlayStation, I was watching Twin Peaks as well.
Ms. Swift said, without Agent Cooper to explain things, this movie went over my head at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the consensus. I read a funny quote from Quentin Tarantino, who at the time, because he was in the Cannes audience when it premiered, he said, David Lynch has disappeared so far up his own ass, I don't want to watch another Lynch movie until I hear different.
That's from Tarantino?
Yes, he said it.
Well, I mean, Tarantino notoriously stole... I think it was Wild at Heart, wasn't it? For like Natural Born Killers? No, 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 no. True Romance.
Maybe I'm not. I've never heard that, but it's not improbable. But you can see why somebody would find this self-indulgent.
Very much so.
But like I
Especially
said,
when you star in it.
yeah. But it helps with the looking in the rear view, seeing what came after.
Oh yeah.
It's just clear that he was ready to. He was still using Twin Peaks to explore some themes that he was going to expand upon, and it's imperfect, but he was working on expanding his palette, and eventually got there.
Oh wow. Reverse filming is such a surreal viewing experience.
Here is, yep, here we go with this. This is the gross chord.
The creamed corn porn.
Yeah.
Oh god, stop!
And what makes it worse? Oh
yeah, what does the monkey say?
a little cameo from Jack.
Judy!
What did Jack do? Do you remember that short? What did Jack do?
Yes.
But the worst thing about that cream corn is he was spitting it into the spoon and they reversed it. So.
I know. Oh. Judy. I have forgotten who Judy is now. Okay, it's official. I need to rewatch The Return.
Yeah, who is Judy?
We're not gonna talk about Judy. We're not gonna talk about Judy at all.
I don't know if we were prepared enough for this. Watch. We needed extensive notes.
Your favorite gum is coming back in fashion.
Sharon said the corn is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
We warned you.
And Lizard Man said Tarantino doesn't really have the right to criticize Lynch being up his own ass. That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
I like Tarantino. I really don't, have any problem with him, and I think his movies are entertaining. But
For sure.
It's kind of rich to hear him say that. And talking about a guy who shouldn't be in his own movies.
Oh, yeah. Tarantino cannot act his way out of a paper bag. Lynch, at least, is perfect for the role he plays.
Yeah. Oh, Sharon, you're right. Sharon said Judy is the evil spirit.
Yes! Yeah. That's right. That's the thing that eats the trucker's face.
And this too, there's no other director that could use this angel imagery and have it not be completely absurd.
Yeah.
And corny and ridiculous.
We've already had enough corn in this film. We don't need anything else.
But something about it is comforting, but also
unnerving.
Yeah, and still horrific. It's amazing that she finally has some sense of peace. But it's just also painful and tragic.
Yeah. I keep seeing the lead actress from Ginger Snaps in that angel, and I don't know if it's the same actress.
I think Catherine Isabel was a little young for that.
A little too young, yeah. Because this was what, 19?
Underrated horror queen, Catherine Isabel. Also,
I loved the Ginger Snaps movie as a kid. I loved him so much.
That first one, I haven't seen past the first one, but I do love that first one.
2 is a generic sequel. 3 is an absurd prequel. It's absolutely off the. It takes place in like the 1800s during like the witch trials era. And there we go, everybody. That was the fun romp for the whole family that was David Lynch's Twin Peaks Firewalk with me. What a film!
Yeah, thoughts, everyone?
Yeah, I mean, as our honoured guest, Rocco, would you like to give your 3 sentence summary or however you'd like to? Oh,
Sure, sure.
Chaosphere says, I feel happy. I feel happy.
As much as I'd like to say I was one of the people who recognized its brilliance early, I really did not, when I first saw it. But, the positive buzz around it, I think IndieWire just put it as number 19 on its best films of the 90s, way higher than Lost Highway. It was good to revisit it for this, especially being so far away from a rewatch of Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
Just because I don't think the Twin Peaks stuff is the heart of it. I think it's the abuse of this girl.
definitely.
And seeing it as like the fourth film along with Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and Inland Empire really puts it in perspective for me, and I do think it is a masterpiece. Like I said, he's torn between two masters for this one a bit, but I think in the end it is really a spectacular piece of filmmaking.
For sure. And from the audience, we have Sharon saying fun, yes, and then some. Phonic saying, wow, very interesting. We have Lizardman saying, it's not my thing, but I enjoyed seeing everyone's enthusiasm for it, and the clear nostalgia for it made it worthwhile and made it interesting. And that's great. I'm glad that when doing these watch parties, we can have something that is far more out there and isn't everyone's cup of tea, but we can all find ways to enjoy it. Even if you don't enjoy the context or the content, you enjoy the discussion around it, which is fantastic. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I love showing people movies they wouldn't otherwise have seen.
Yeah, and thanks for sticking with us. I know it's a long movie, especially to eat up your Sunday, but yeah, great to have everybody here. It was a lot of fun.
It was, and
Mad Matt was completely disengaged.
Don't blame you.
In this to applaud it, and that is completely fair, Matt. Completely fair.
Very much so. But that'll be all for now for this week, and next week we'll be returning, of course, with a very different movie. Still my style, but it's not like this. We're going to be watching the 90s classic, in my opinion, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So yeah, a very different kind of childhood dumb movie. Hopefully you can all join us.
That since I was a kid. I have very little memory of it.
Yeah, I was a huge Turtles fan, and we are getting some enthusiasm in the chat. But yeah, so that'll be all for this week. Thank you, Rocco, for joining me. And everyone, stay safe. And we'll see you in 7 days. And until then, bye-bye.
Bye.